Hi, I'm Jason with a Gypsy's Kiss. And stick with us and we'll talk about what to do with that winter search. Welcome, searchers. It's Jason with a Gypsy's Kiss. We got a panel tonight talking about the winter search. Of course, we've got snow on the ground, so it's time to think about what we can do to maximize our time off away from boots on the ground. I've got a great panel tonight. We've got Joel Lewicki, we've got Sean Martinez, we got K Pro Kristie and Rodney Greenway. My dad Toby is going to be running as producer and technical director. If you've got any questions tonight, we recommend that you text the questions. He's got that new system set up. It's a 1-800 number,
And
and
I'll
it's
give them
there at
that
the top
number.
of the chat. It's there at the top of the chat. But I'd like to go around there and have our panelists introduce themselves. So, Kristie, why don't we start with you?
Hi, everybody. Kristie K. Pro. I run a forum called Hint of Riches, and the Raven's Nest is back up. You can see all those videos, and we'll be back next week.
Right on. Joel, how are you doing?
Hey, everybody. Joel Lewicki. I hold the distinct privilege of being somebody who's not yet found the treasure chest. So I think some other people might be in that boat too. You can find me in northern Minnesota if you look hard enough.
Sean?
Sean Martinez. I live in New Mexico. I am a prior homicide detective in search of Forrest Fenn's treasure, looking at it from an investigative standpoint.
And Rodney?
Hi, Rodney Greenway. I have a YouTube channel under that name, Rodney Greenway, and you can reach out to me at fentreasurethoughts@gmail.com.
Right on. Thanks, guys, for checking in. I really appreciate you joining. I want to say at the outset, guys, these are my opinions. These are thoughts that I had on what to do with our winter search and everything. I also want to say that if anything is said that kind of goes against anyone's personal search ideas or things like that, remember, they're just opinions. I certainly think that everyone's got a right to share their own ideas, and I don't want to be trampling on anyone's ideas. If I say something that goes against your particular solution, trust me, it's not with intent. So let's keep it light and let's keep it fun. Dad, do you want to handle any housekeeping and say hi to anybody in the room? Or
So I did want to say hi to all the viewers in our chat room. Welcome tonight. My name is Toby Younis. My partner Shelley Carney and I have a YouTube channel called Lady and the Oracle. You can find it at ladyandtheoracle.tv if you're into the woo-woo. I'm acting as producer and technical director tonight, and I would appreciate it that if you have any questions for any member of the panel, please text it to the following number so I can make sure I pick up on it. The number is, it's toll free, 866-597-9901. You'll see it scroll across the screen, so you shouldn't have trouble finding the number. And then lastly, I wanted to mention that I will be on Friday night at 7 p.m. with the Forrest Fenn Friday Fandango on gypsieskiss.live. So please join me for Q&A on that day. I would look forward to talking with you.
good deal. And any moderators we need to know about in the chat room?
I will be moderating the chat room. I haven't seen any of the other moderators come in, but I'll let you know if they do,
Right.
so that you can give your thanks. Say thanks
Well,
to
we
them.
appreciate their help. So first thing I wanted to talk about, and for the experienced searchers, it's probably going to be kind of reviewing some things. This really goes out to the new searchers. There's going to be people that are constantly coming to this search, brand new. And the first thing I would say is you've got just as much chance as the rest of us. Don't think that you're behind the curve. In fact, some of us who have been around a while, it may be a bit of a liability because of the sheer amount of information that we've taken in, and sometimes we'll be talking and we have to kind of ask ourselves, like, what did he say? What was that? How did I remember that? And you've got to go back to Terry Scant, or you've got to go back to some old videos and interviews and realize, wow, I actually remembered that wrong. So don't be intimidated if you're new. You're just as much in the search as the rest of us. But Let's talk about safety. The first thing with wintertime, especially in the Rockies, if you're coming from outside the Rockies, you're a flatlander, or you've been on the coast and you're thinking about that boots on the ground, I'll make it clear, and it's something that Fenn has made clear to us. There is no good winter search option, and I know sometimes you'll have that solution, and you just think, man, I don't want to wait. I don't want to hear that somebody else got to it before me. Trust me, when it closes out for winter, it closes out, and no amount of low pressure on your tires or lift or four-wheel drive. Four-wheel drive makes the truck heavier and makes it easier to slide in the ice. That's what four-wheel drive does for you in inclement weather. So, you really do want to hold off. It's highly recommended. One of the things you need to think about is beyond the difficulty of actually finding anything when there's heavy snow on the ground. We talk about how difficult it might be able to find the treasure buried in leaves. We talk about, hey, it's been 8 years, it's been 10 years. What's the condition of the ground, dirt, earth, water? But, you throw a foot and a half of snow on everything, and there's nothing to look under. It's literally just pure white as far as you can see. So there's that. The second thing is the roads themselves. They get incredibly impassable, and it's very, very common during the wintertime for entire sections of the Rockies road system to be just shut down entirely. And then even when they do get them in working order, they are, it's not a Disney ride. It's not perfectly safe travel. You need to be an experienced person that knows how to handle your vehicle in inclement weather and slippery situations. So it's really not something you want to play with, especially if you're bringing the family along. Save it for the good weather. Save it for the good weather. Um, the final piece that I want to talk about is the speed and the intensity of mountain storms.
Hmm.
When you're out on the plains, you can essentially watch the cells walking across the plains towards you. You have a lot of time to say, hey, the weather's getting bad, the clouds are getting dark. When you're up in the Rockies, it can literally go from sun and blue sky to intense storm and heavy snow, the kind of snow that will box you in very, very quickly in minutes. There are hikers that get caught above the tree line and are in real danger of being electrocuted by lightning and things like that. So just know that there's a reason why those passes have the kind of history that they do, and that just because we have a modern road system threading through there does not change the way nature sees those Rocky Mountains. So that's kind of my general take on safety, and I'd just like to hear from the panel, just one by one, if you've got any anecdotes or anything to add to that information. Sean, why don't we start with you, buddy?
Well, safety is number one for all searchers, in my opinion. You have to be safe in the winter months, based on the indications that I've noticed forests give in the past. Once the winter season hits, it's time to start looking into the search and reading. Really preparing yourself for the search season opposed to going out. It's almost as if he is closing the door to us on the idea of actually going out in the winter months and searching. Now, if he's going to give those indications, those indicators to searchers, then it's reasonable to believe that, going out there and looking for it, unless you are him and know exactly where it's at, it would be next to impossible to navigate the path, follow the clues, and locate and retrieve the chest. So in my opinion, Forrest has given enough out to very subtly, but sometimes, other times it's just very blatant that, well, snow's on the ground in Santa Fe, let's stay inside by a warm fire. It's best to prepare yourself accordingly, research, save to make your boots on the ground trip, and then go out when it is safe to do so. So in my opinion, it's going to be near impossible in the winter months, and this is for all searchers, to go out and look for the chest. It would be very dangerous.
Yeah. Rodney, how about you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with just about everything that you guys said. So I was born and raised in Michigan, and so I'm used to a lot of snow, and know that it can come on pretty quick, especially with all that lake effect. But I run into people all the time, when I'm at different duty stations. Once the snow hits, like everything shuts down because people just aren't used to it. Even with me, having driven many years in the snow, I probably wouldn't venture up that way, you know, uh, knowing that it's wintertime. Being on flat ground in the snow is one thing. Being up in the mountains, on those steep grades and everything else, it can turn into a pretty bad situation really quick.
Yeah.
And then Forrest, I'm probably going to butcher the quote, but just a couple weeks ago, he did say, to the best of his knowledge, like the search season or all of the Rocky Mountains are unsearchable or something like that. Maybe one of you guys can quote me the right way. But he's telling us again, like, you might as well not attempt it. So I would say stay safe and start looking through your other means of how to come up with a solution.
Gotcha. Kristie, what do you think?
Well, I'll give you a couple examples. I think it was a couple days after that quote that Rodney just talked about. I was boots on the ground with Cynthia in New Mexico. If you haven't seen the video, there was a video that snow was not on the ground yet, but there was a lot of mud because there's been a lot of rain in, and she was really, I called it the mud puddle, but she was worried about really getting stuck. And we have about a 3-minute video where I got the case of the giggles because she was so concerned, and we would have been there for an entire day. And so I videoed it and fell over. It was a fun little time, but it really showed me the person that kept contacting me each day was Illinois Ghost. It's like, how's the weather? I'm getting ready to go next week. How's the weather? I'm getting ready to go. And each day I was like, it's beautiful, it's beautiful. But then like on day 6, I'm like, here's a snapshot of the snowy mountains. And then the next day it was like, oh, it's dropped 10 degrees. And so it did show me how quickly. I think the Fenn or Forrest quote was for all the Rockies, and I think there's definitely some that are not passable. But even in New Mexico, I saw in that I was there 10 days, it started transitioning very quickly. And if you watch the 4-part series from Rick, he wasn't able to get in the normal way. He was worried his car was going to get stuck.
Right.
So that's the one example I give. And then the other, I've started looking at the Facebook pages, and somebody was up in the Yellowstone area, and they were driving as 3 big bears were walking their way to their hibernation areas. And it was like, I talked to Cynthia maybe a month before. She was boots on the ground. She said, I'm not getting out of my car. Look at those bears. They need one last meal before they go to hibernate, and I'm going to be it. So that's something else to consider, is the animals out there.
Yes.
And the last example I'll give, because you said it, Jason, and it happened. My first boots on the ground, a huge thunderstorm came in, and I walkie-talkied my search partner, who was about a half mile just kind of looking. And I said, we're about 4 seconds from where I see the thunder and hear I see the lightning and hear the thunder. Yeah, I said, so we're okay. We're about 4 seconds. And then I walkie-talkie, I'm like, we're 2 seconds. Can you get over here? And then he came up, and I'm like, we're 1 second. And there we were running, and and we finally like went under a tree because we couldn't get close. I mean, did we really want to get in the car? Probably not. But it was amazing to me. I thought there was so much more time on our side, but it went from 4 seconds to 2 seconds to 1 second. I didn't know the formula, but I will say the next time I just even am able to see it, I would be running to the car. So learn from, that was 4 years ago. That was not a smart thing to do. So that happens so much more quickly in the winter. So it's just, I mean, I went boots on the ground 2 weeks ago, and that's my limit. I'm done for the season. So exactly what you said, but I wanted to throw out a couple of examples that.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Joel, what do you got?
Sorry, I've got to unmute myself here. I do have 4 small kids, and it is bedtime. So the screaming can always, drown me out a little bit.
Nice.
I'm just kidding. They're fabulous kids. I would say, first of all, I'm from like basically where winter is born, right? And people with four-wheel drive vehicles are the top vehicles that I see in the ditches all the time, because it gives you a false sense of security and you overdrive for the conditions. Two, I have snow on the ground here right now. It snowed and it's like 24 degrees out right now. And it's worse in certain areas of the search area right now than it is here. I am looking at the west entrance to Yellowstone webcam right now, a current picture of it, and I can see the gates up. That road is closed. The west entrance is closed for the year. If you're thinking of going out searching, you need to reevaluate your thought process. Forrest has said, turn your car off until spring, right? And I think people misunderstand Forrest's quote that if you know exactly where it is, you can probably retrieve it in any weather. I think he was saying that tongue in cheek. Nobody knows exactly where it is. If you did, you would be in possession of it. You're going out to search. You don't know exactly where it is. You think you know where it is. And that's a big difference. Sorry to burst your bubble, but bubble burst.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dad, have you got anything for us from the chat room?
Not anything yet. You guys go ahead.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it, guys. So hopefully we've made that clear. Safety first. Okay. So let's move on. We're not going out. What do we do with our time? What's an efficient way to do, work our time so that we're actually moving closer to our goal of one of us getting to this treasure, right? The first thing I'd recommend is study up on the things relevant to the chase. And those can include a number of things. I think most of the experienced Fenn tubers tend to put a lot of weight into watching and reviewing the interviews and listening to the tapes that are out there. I think more than anything, as you get more and more involved in this chase, you realize that a big part of this is just understanding how Forrest sees and relates to the world. It's going to give you that insight and that relation to those words that he penned to maybe give you a breakthrough or some understanding as to the meaning that's there. So I would say that we highly rate the things like watching and reviewing the interviews, listening to those tapes. The next thing I would say is always consider the relative position of what you're viewing and the overall timeline of the chase. You know, when was he saying this, and had he curtailed things, due to circumstances as the chase has progressed? Of course, we've had things that have happened. One thing I would mention is like at one point people were digging up graves, people were going in and shoveling in national parks, and so he started to put a real push into, yes, thank you, Joel, get that finger going. He started to really make a point of saying, hey, I never said buried. I never said buried. And as experienced searchers, that's kind of a timeline mark for us. There's the pre-bury issue and the post-bury issue, and there are other issues in the search that are similar to that. So as somebody who's studying this information and studying those quotes, try to start to develop that timeline so that you can understand the information that I'm seeing right now, where does it fit in that process. Okay. Another thing, watch your favorite Fenn tubers. A lot of them, the reason why they're Fenn tubers is they do have some experience, they have some information to share, and a lot of times just hearing somebody break down and parse something in a completely different way than you would can help you break through and reevaluate your ideas of the poem or the search or the clues. Guys, what do you think? What do you have on that? Joel?
So I would say this: if you have not yet purchased The Thrill of the Chase and read it, do so. It's a great book. If your exposure to this is you've seen stuff online and you've read the poem and you've been looking at maps, this is a perfect time to do that. The Collected Works bookstore has copies of it for sale. It's $35 plus shipping. You got to do it. If you haven't read it, you've got to read that. And that's, when you have that time over the winter, I think that's a great use of your time. And I would put that as like the number one thing to do, is to read that. That's what he tells people to do that are serious about trying to find it, is to read his book, read the poem a bunch of times, go back and read the book again, looking for stuff that sticks out. It's not rocket science. It's just none of us are thinking about it the same way that he is. So like you were saying, if there's other things then that you can look at and maybe try to get a feel for who Forrest is, sure, fold those things in and get a better idea of who he is. That's basically what Sean's trying to do, right? Like to figure out Forrest and to see, okay, how do I try to look at this the same way Forrest does? Yeah. I don't know as though that's possible. It's really hard to put yourself in someone else's shoes, and to look at the world the same way they do. Just look at yesterday's elections, right? Like no one thinks about the world really the same way. People really do. They see everything very differently, especially when they gave it 15 years of thought of how to make it really hard. Right. So, it says exactly what he wanted to, and I have fun with it, and try to think a little bit outside the box. And, you never know where it's going to lead you. May lead you to $2 million worth of riches hidden somewhere in the Rocky Mountains.
Hidden.
We do know this, though. Pretty soon it's going to be buried in snow, which is why you shouldn't go out looking for it.
Right. Rodney, have you got any thoughts on what you would study and where you would position things on its value?
Yeah. So I'm gonna add on to the Thrill of the Chase book comment.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like was already said, if you haven't gotten the book yet, you need to get it. If you have only read it, once, you need to, I would say, do what Forrest suggests and, read it as a memoir, then memorize the poem, then read it again slowly. Every time I read anything in that book, I figure out that there's more depth to it than what I had thought. And it is, for the 149 pages, whatever it is, it's a small book, and the amount of stuff the amount of volumes that it speaks over just what we believe that it says is incredible. So I would put most of my focus on the poem and the Thrill of the Chase, not to discredit Too Far to Walk or Once Upon a While. Mm-hmm. I think both of those books are awesome too. They're funny. They give us insight into other stuff. And I think overall, just try to figure out the type of person that Forrest is. And I think if you can begin to narrow down that stuff, then, you'll be a lot better off. I do want to say something about the interviews though, because sure. You had said something, like to pay attention when that was said.
Yeah.
There's some back and forth about buried, not buried, or whatever. Forrest has told us to only pay attention to stuff that he has said in the book. And he has made a few slips of the tongue, however you want to say it. So, there has been a couple of interviews where he said buried, right? But then he has gone on to say that it's not buried. Well, this recent interview, I forget what channel it is. It was just uploaded yesterday. The blonde-haired woman went to go speak with Forrest. He said he hid the chest in 1988. Now, obviously he didn't.
Yeah.
Obviously he didn't mean that, but that's what he had said. So just think of in terms of, he's an elderly person. He's giving interviews. He's probably tired of the same stuff over and over. And sometimes there will be a slip of the tongue. So interviews are great, I would say, but I would try to focus maybe on the earlier stuff that he's written down on paper, because he's been able to review it. It's not just words spewing out of his mouth, and then the priority going towards the books.
Got it.
Quick
Yeah,
one,
I like
Jace. Rodney is referring to our friend Louise at the Digital Nomad YouTube channel.
Okay. All right, Kristie, what do you got?
Well, I'm going to be controversial like I seem to be sometimes, and I'm going to disagree with the entire panel. So there's two things I will say is
Yes.
I'll at least do a shout out. Follow Me Down is in the chat room, and I think he just had a heart attack. He's a poem purist. He believes, I'm not, I'm a kitchen sink person, but he believes if you read the book, I sent him the book, he sent it back unread. And he believes that it will corrupt the brain because there's so many rabbit holes that intentionally red herrings, etc. And
Yeah.
like, I'll say, well, what about scrapbook? He's like, scrapbook, what? Like, don't complicate it. Look at the map and the, that's what
Yeah.
he focuses on. So for some new people, realize once you go there, you can't go back. So you may want to realize how many conundrums are out there and things that are contradictory. I love watching Rodney, other people with here's something in the book. RF Hecky does a great job. And I started collecting all of his books, and I started $17 a square inch. I just got. And just realize if you intentionally want to do that, your mind can never go back. So Follow Me Down. I hope you do not, or at least give me a little bit of thanks for the poem purist in the room. And I think there's a difference between poem purists that read everything and then now have gone back to just the poem, like Sean Dotson, and
Right.
those that have never looked at a scrapbook, a book, or anything extra. But this is where I will deviate a little bit, and I will say there's a couple of sites that I would say I think the interviews are really interesting, even though I think he always had it in his mind, so he always is being intentional about what he says.
Yeah.
There is, of course, AGK, but Lucky Love has a really good site on some videos that are rarely seen. And then a new one that has just come out, and they only have like 6 or 7 subscribers, and I'm one of them, is Hoosier Sisters. They just put up 5 minutes before right now a 1968 audio, and they had a 1980 something, just starting to build their channel, and it looks like it's all lots of specific forest Fenn related audio. So that is a couple of the things out there that I see on what you talked so far about. And I see Toby.
Yeah.
Don't go watch it right now. Like, wait at least till we're done.
Toby.
So that is just my K-Pro. That's my signal to Jason that I need to talk. That wasn't meant to stop you. I didn't want to keep you from talking. Shelley knew how to raise the little blue hand. I don't know how to do that. So a couple of things. Number one, the Hoosier Sisters are our viewers and subscribers, Tammy Madison, Cindy Guess, who search together, and you guys have seen them. We've done interviews with them. I do have a question from the room. It is a little bit off-center, but you guys brought up hidden versus buried, etc. Fossil Man 123 wants you to answer the following question. Is something in a hole covered by a rock buried or hidden?
Oh man.
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, that's Fossilman. That is a great question, and to be perfectly honest, in my view is that I think it's likely and acceptable with everything that's been said if it ends up with a flagstone above it, and which in some minds would be buried, but out here that's just kind of a way that you put something into a little nicho or something. You're just going to cover it with that, and so buried in my mind is taking a shovel and shoveling a bunch of dirt on something, and that isn't that. So but I do want to go ahead, Rodney.
It's covered. Like there's no other way to describe it. It's covered.
Yeah.
Entombed, sepulchered. There's lots of ways to describe.
Cunningly hidden.
The holy sepulcher. Sean, what do you think about study time and study materials and what you would put your weight into?
Well, I believe for every searcher who is actually really interested in this and really has a drive to find this, they're going to do more than one boots on the ground or even their first this year, that we all as a community need to start studying for the test, because the test is coming in the spring when boots on the ground opens back up and we all get out there. Now, only one of us is going to pass this test eventually, if any. And so in my opinion, we need to study. It's time to look at all valid, qualified material and information that is available to us, and really comb through it thoroughly. In my opinion, it's a really good time as you're doing that, as you are going through that material, to develop a small handful of solutions to the poem, solutions to this riddle, this quiz that we're all seeking to interpret and locate the chest. So the different types of material, of course, AGK puts out a lot of very good material, a lot of things to get you thinking about solutions, locations, what the words in the poem mean in the book. So that's one area. Looking at the interviews, one thing that I do personally is, as I go through the interviews, I hit pause a lot, and I take notes, and I apply that to my different solution areas, different things that are said. In addition, reading the material, going through it slowly and pulling out things. One of the reasons I brought up putting together some solutions for yourself based on the material that you gather and the information you gather is, as you are going through the material, if something stands out in a solution area and it fits a word, something that's said, a phrase, a location, a landmark, you can begin to apply that information to your solution area as you go. Now, for example, if you have a small handful, 4 or 5 solutions, and nothing seems to apply to the 4, but a number of things apply to the 5th, then you're going to be able to categorize which solution, location, or area you want to go to first in the spring when we all start heading out. So I believe that's very key to studying and really putting on our thinking caps. 2018 has not resulted with a finder that has been announced or that we know of. However, I believe really utilizing the material, the qualified material that's available to us, can assist new searchers and searchers who have been in the chase for quite some time in preparing solution locations. And in addition, that will get you excited for your boots on the ground. You'll have a fresh a perspective of a solution location. If you've been in the same place for a really long time, maybe use it as a time to start looking into others. If you've been up north, spend a couple days looking into a solution area down south, or vice versa. No, Joel, no, not at all, right? That, in my opinion, that'd be a good time, because we have the time to do that and prepare for the spring. And hopefully there will be a searcher in the community, whether it's a new searcher or someone who's been in for a long time, who will put out the announcement that the chest has been found, and it'll give us a whole lot of, right. In my opinion, it'll give us a lot more to talk about, and it'll carry on the flow of the thrill of the chase even further if that person decides to do something with that idea, which in my opinion would be good. So and develop your confidence over this winter. I think that's really important. Don't be discouraged that you went out once or a dozen times this summer and you didn't find the chest. Yeah. Rebuild your confidence in the chase and the thrill of the chase, and let that take you away and have fun with it and enjoy it.
I like it. Toby, you got anything?
Hello? No, sir. We're good right now. We're clear in the room.
All right. Excellent. So I want to move on. Oh, go ahead, Rodney.
Can I add one more thing? And I think, sure. I think we tend to forget about it. So one thing that I could find it being very important to study is geography textbooks, or anything about U.S. geography, world geography, so on and so forth, because Forrest told us that you will have to have a good understanding of geography.
Yeah.
So if you read those textbooks or those reports, those pamphlets, anything like that, put out onto the web or go into your library and get those books, I think it will help incredibly.
Exactly what everyone wants to hear. Spend your winter relearning English grammar.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting.
That's awesome.
I think it's a great point, Rodney. And one thing I would add to that is that as an aviator, he looks at maps
Yep.
in a completely
Maps?
different way. Yeah, hey,
Kristie
all
knows all
kinds of
about
maps.
maps.
And
I know
so I
about
think that's
800
something
maps.
that any searcher needs to keep in mind is there's a lot of different kinds of maps out there, and each one of them may give you a little bit of an edge or a little more understanding as to how that relates to the poem.
Absolutely.
Kristie, you want to tell us about maps?
Well, I have seen some really awesome maps. And I mean, Forrest says you just need the right one and maybe one that he's put a little X on. So I will say they are, Toby's seen one of them. There's a great picture of Toby and I in that command center, and it was right in back. And some people picked up on it. It's like, does Toby have the maps? It's like,
Yeah.
you guess. I paid for it.
He
We've
had
been
the
doing that.
map.
He had the map.
Yeah,
He was looking at it like, which one is this? And so there's about 800 maps. They've made their way to Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah.
Mike's has them, and so he's not in the room right now, but so I can talk about them. And so we're going to catalog the maps. We're trying to figure out. There's some duplicates. There's some. We have about. So it ended up actually being about 850 rather than 750.
Wow.
And about 25 of them had some sort of little damage to them, like either a mouse hit the sides of them or a little bit of water damage.
Sure.
The rest of, I will say 18 of the drawers were New Mexico. I think there was one that was Colorado, or maybe two, and then one was Utah. And so he hasn't gone through the maps yet. I'm like, we're holding off for a little bit. We had a couple other things going on, which I'll talk about next week on the Raven's
Okay.
Nest. But the maps are awesome. They were in
And
such great condition.
did you end up getting the drawers to Cynthia?
Cynthia helped me get and pick up
Yeah.
everything, and so he signed one of them. The other one he did not sign because it was too warped. But Michelle is actually a sharpshooting person, and so all of her targets have gone in those
Oh,
drawers. So
cool.
in her little storage area. So
Yeah.
yes, those are with Cynthia, and so it's just the maps, and we're gonna figure. Everybody's been Email Mike, please, because I just forwarded them to Mike. That's Mike's side of the house.
Okay.
So he's gonna figure out we're gonna figure something out during the off season. We have the idea of maybe making like a New Mexico state and maybe having 50 of them for some of the collectors that want to see all of them. But then definitely individual ones. We're figuring out eBay, not eBay. Well, that's again, Mike will explain all of that later, because
Well,
that
he's
is not me.
experienced. It's right up his alley. To
Yep.
take care of that
Yep.
kind of
Great partner for that.
stuff. Good deal. Good deal.
Get your very own Forest Fenn water damage, authentic water damage map.
Well, and I will say the one thing that I hope it's okay to say this, and I know Forrest is watching, so sorry if it's not. I had him sign a certificate of authenticity, and he signed it, and Shiloh signed it, and Shiloh saw it and was like, "Grandpa, I asked you for this. This could have gone for more if you did it for me." And he's looking at me like, "You got me." And Shiloh, I will say, was serious there for a second. He's like, "I'll sign." He's like, "But I asked you 3 times. I told you." I'm like, but so you do also get, he actually signed 2 of them. And we're going to make copies for everybody that buys one. They will have a certificate that says this was a part of his previous collection. Shiloh did sell them, and they have both of their signatures.
Yeah.
Kind of a
It
cool little
totally sounds like something that my dad and I would get into, where I'd be like, "You told them what? I've been asking for that thing for years, you know."
Yeah.
And I will say that honestly, even if there wasn't a single mark on the maps, I just think it would be damned interesting just to know, you know, Forrest is just such an interesting guy. He's led such an interesting life, and to be reading the kinds of stories and memoirs that he shared with us, and think about those maps as being related to that in any way, to me, it just makes it damned interesting. I think I've got a little bit of dad in me that it's just fun to look at maps anyway. I used to be around in aviation, so you know, thinking about sectional charts and all that kind of stuff, it's just fun stuff to look at. So I want to move on to the next section, and that is my recommendation for beyond what we talked about with the studying, would be to take the opportunity when you have this time, you're setting up for staying warm in the winter, to review your boots on the ground equipment and checklist. You know, I'm thinking about Jason Dent and that awesome pack that he put together and stuff like that. You know, he's first off just his Army experience, but secondly, Jason is a good guy, a guy you could trust in the woods. And you look at what he went through, the very specific items that he picked for his pack. And as a new searcher, go take a look at what Jason was doing with that pack. It's a great reference point for what you want, and also to look at things that you don't need. You can easily take too much stuff into the woods when you get into the field. And so it's important to be intelligent about that and consider that you really want to bring the things you need and not necessarily everything in the house.
Well, Jason, I
So,
wanted to make one comment to that.
yeah.
I got one of Jason's pack. And
Oh,
the
yeah,
really
that's
cool
right.
part, because I was talking to Copper Dan about this, because I think he got one too.
Yes.
There is a nice condensed emergency kit. And I will tell you, Copper Dan told me this, and he's exactly right. When I'm not boots on the ground, that goes in my glove compartment because it can be used anywhere. It's amazing how small it is, but how many things are in it. And then it's big, the boots on the ground pack is big. And so it goes into a little small area right within the pack. So when you're anywhere, put it in your glove compartment, but then when your boots on the ground, just take it out and put it in your pack, which is really cool. That was something I didn't even think about.
Gotcha. Rodney, what do you think?
So packing is obviously incredibly important, and sometimes I don't think of what it would be like for somebody, other than myself. I've been in the infantry for 10 years. I've done a bunch of field training exercises, deployments, and all that. There's a bunch of generic packing lists online. Pretty much you just need to, visualize for worst case scenario, or put yourself in a bad situation in your mind and figure out what you're going to need to have with you.
Mm-hmm.
On top of the packing list, also consider, the finances of, do I want to stay in a hotel every night and really rack up this trip's cost, or
Right.
do I want to bring the stuff with me that allows me to camp and enjoy the wilderness for however long. I spent 10 days in the Rocky Mountains. I spent like $700, I think, and that was driving all the way from Georgia. So probably not even that. But yeah, first aid equipment, emergency equipment, sleeping bags. Never ever leave without an actual compass, not a cheap compass, but one that gives you actual azimuths and an actual map, some sort of fire starting material, and some sort of water purification. That's going to be the biggest, life or death, make you or break you type situation.
Well, and that's a great point. And if you're talking to somebody who has no experience in looking at, what's a cheap compass compared to a good one, what would you say is a good reference for, hey, you've got a decent compass here?
You have like the normal compasses that just have your normal north, south, east, and west. Might be on, like a plastic wristwatch, or, might be a cheap little plastic handheld one. The ones that I'm referring to are about maybe $70. They open up and they got like a little a lensatic compass. There you go.
Okay.
So if you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, Google, Army lensatic compass. You want the kind that has tritium inside of it because it actually glows and it's easy to see at nighttime. And it actually has azimuths in degrees, so you can walk a straight line, if you know what you're doing, over the course of 1,000 meters and still be within 10 meters of what you were aiming for. So they are definitely important, and obviously know the magnetic delineation for the area, but definitely have one of those. Don't trust your smartphone, don't trust your GPS. It's good to have, but definitely know how to land nav, how to terrain associate, and how to read a compass and a map.
Yeah, as soon as you lose connectivity, what you've got yourself into a place and you have no way out of it. So that's a great point. So you're saying in general, if it's got like a Batman logo, it's probably not the
yeah. If people just Google lensatic compass, they'll see, or just Google, the compass that the Army uses. I think they run anywhere from, $50 to $70 or whatever. $70 are the ones that, have the light up inside of it. It's like some sort of chemical. But I tell you what, you'll never need another compass. It's never going to break. You know, it's going to do the job for the rest of the time that you're going to need a compass. So,
and I'm glad you said that. I mean, you know, we live in a capitalist society, and a lot of times, you know, cost is just a good reference for what does it take to get a decent one of these. Cameras is like that all the time. People will be like, I got an amazing deal on this digital camera, it's $100. And I'm like, yeah, but what's it going to do for you? You know,
it's going to be
and
obsolete.
so I'm really glad you put a number on it, because it puts a person in a ballpark for what they should expect to spend for a good quality compass. Sean, your thoughts on prepping your pack, and also a checklist. Do you have any kind of a checklist you use?
Well, and it's interesting you say that. I was going to bring that up. Sit down and brainstorm. If you have been boots on the ground previously, go over a checklist of items that you realize that you didn't have, but you could have utilized out in the field. Maybe different things that you were not prepared for that you ran into, and look into the best quality items for that. You know, really review your previous boots on the ground if you have been, and what were you missing? What could you have used or utilized while out there? Was the different type of search clothing that you were wearing, whatever gear you had, was it adequate for the terrain? Was it adequate for the elements that you ran into while you were out there? Which I believe is important in the search. Your surroundings are very important. Rodney had talked about the geography. I believe that's important. So depending on your search area, whether it's you know, in the deserty forest area or the higher mountains, be prepared for that. Go over that. Now, if you're a new searcher, I think it's a really good idea that Jason's putting out these packs. I think it's great because it gives you a head start on those different things, and you don't have to go piecing it together. So go out there and look into something like that that's all in one, and be prepared as you go out. So in addition to that, I believe that you know, utilizing technology, if you've never used it while you're out in the field, of course, have a compass, but you can do offline mapping with the GPS signal, that even if you lose a service, it will still map you out there in the areas that you don't get cell service, where your cell phone or your tablet is not functioning properly, and it will map you. It will map your trail. It'll map where you've gone accordingly, even if it's offline. So if you download those offline, you can utilize those, and I have done that in the past with both tablets and an old cell phone with backup batteries. I'll download all of that beforehand. That's just a nifty technological tool. If you're into technology and you would like to try that or utilize it, it's something that has worked for me in an area without a signal. So maybe look into discuss with other searchers what they do, what they use, and get a heads up from them. Did it work? If you have an idea, use one of these chat rooms to talk to somebody. Send in a question, text in a question to a Gypsy's Kiss. If you have any questions in regards to what you've used that didn't work, what you are planning on doing, and if somebody's utilized it, maybe it's expensive. Is it a waste of money to do it that way? Is there something cheaper? Socialize with the community and get a really good idea. You know, Jason's a good one when it comes to the pack, but any other materials that you may need when you go out in the field, I think it'd be ideal to talk to fellow searchers, develop friendships, and possibly even go boots on the ground together. So it's a community, and we can all help each other out.
Well put. And Toby, what do you got?
Have you gotten through this round already?
No.
All right, why don't you get through the round, then come back to me? I have a question for the panel.
Okay. You know, I did want to say one of the things I think we take for granted as the experienced searchers is that you know, Forrest essentially got his Boy Scout training the real deal. You know, a little at a time, growing up all the time, and his experience with his family and his adventures. And so, you know, that kind of knowledge, that mountaineering, that being smart in the woods, that what do you carry, what do you don't carry, it was built into him, you know. And so for the new searchers, when I think about them going out and I watch some of these videos where it looks like, you know, they just kind of hit the Walmart or the convenience store on the way up the mountain, and that's their pack, it's like, yeah, you're gonna need more than chips and a flashlight, you know. So Joel, your thoughts on it?
I'll go a little different route.
Okay.
If you are needing to like be a prepper in order to start going to search your spot, you're probably not looking in the right spot. Okay. If you're like, I need like 10 days worth of water, I need, you know, I'm gonna have to camp out there. The guy went from his car to the hide twice in an afternoon. Okay, so use the winter to reevaluate your solution. Again, with the bubble bursting, I'm sorry, but I'm not downplaying being prepared. What I'm downplaying is putting yourself in a position that is dangerous or hard to get to, because that Forrest has been explicit that is not the type of place that he put it. So you have to get that through your mind. The people that we've lost, the people that have gotten stuck and in places they shouldn't have been, it's because they were in places they shouldn't have been, trying to do things they shouldn't have been trying to do with equipment they never should have been using. So if that's the way you feel your mind going right now as we enter this winter part of the search, where you're not out boots on the ground and you're thinking about it, there's enough people that they're thinking about this is not clear, and you need to change your thinking about it. Maybe talk to another person about what you're thinking that you trust, so that they can go, well, that's crazy. That can't be what it is. If you're tight-lipped and not telling anyone, then you don't have anyone that's speaking truth into your solve to say, whoa, you got to back this crazy train up. You're going to be the next person, that's on the news that lost their life looking for the Forrest Fenn treasure. That's not what this is about. And just to reiterate what Sean was saying, it's like we're studying for a test. I just want to clarify, that test is going to be July 15th. So nobody search before July 15th. It's a hard date.
Nice.
Okay, that's when Forrest says we can get back out there and search.
Right.
So please do not go before that.
Something you said made me think of another thing, and I'll get right to you, Toby, right after this. But something that you said about, make that call. One thing that you need to think about when you're getting ready to go out into the woods, as an aviator, every time you fly, you file what's called a flight plan. And it essentially is a basic sketch of what you intend to do with that aircraft, so that at any time in your flight, if you lose contact, people can have a reasonable expectation of where to go to look for you. And anyone who's considering heading out into the woods needs to have a similar setup, whether it's just a family friend or a search buddy. Just posting online, hey guys, I'm going this weekend, wish me luck. That's not a flight plan. Okay, that's
like saying try to find me.
Yeah. It needs to be something more like, me texting dad and saying, I'm going to be in this area, I plan to camp at this point, I'm going to be there to that evening, and then I'm going to travel to this point. And I'm not going to tell you guys any of those points, so don't even ask.
No, but Jason, this is a good point, what you just said. I have a couple people that have said to me, I don't want to tell you my location, but I also don't want to freak out my wife. So here's my wife's telephone number and my wife's name. If I don't contact you by this time, contact her. She knows where I'm at, and I don't want to freak her out, which is kind of an interesting way to do it, which I thought it was kind of cool. So they haven't shared it with the searcher, but then they haven't freaked out their family.
It's a good point. You've got a buffer, right? You got a buffer. You're not literally saying the exact point, but you can. But I'm just saying, put that chain in place, just like ladies going out and they'll set up a safety call. Same idea. You just want a little bit of backup outside of what you're doing, so you have a reference point.
Geronimo.
Yeah. Toby.
Again, a bit off center, but they wanted the panel to answer it because it kind of relates to the theme for tonight. The question is, in the off season, would you recommend visiting some of the museums around your search area?
Rodney, what do you think about that? They're asking about visiting museums.
I don't think it would hurt at all. Especially like the Buffalo Bill Museum. Hey, there might be something important there. and it's not causing you to go out venturing into the mountains or anything like that. So yeah, I could see it being important. Forrest talks about the museum in Denver, so obviously he likes these places and he thinks about them. So maybe he thought about them with his poem.
Yep. Kristie, what do you think?
Maybe not for me. I mean, I'd still like to get out and about, and it's not in the Rockies, but I'm going treasure hunting this weekend on different treasure in North Carolina. So that's I'm more of the outdoorsy and getting dirty. But I'm sure a museum is lovely. It will not hurt. Exactly.
Gotcha. Sean.
I can tell you I have done that, and I have taken photographs extensively in museums in regards to the search. So that's something is a really good question. I have done that personally, so I would agree with that. I would say that it could be beneficial, but if there's one item that's specifically pertinent to your solution or your interpretation of the poem or the book, it couldn't hurt. And it could give you some insight. It could verify what you're looking into or disqualify the direction you're going. So as I've said before, I don't rule anything out until I've exhausted my efforts on that and it appears that it's not relevant to my solution.
Sure.
So I would encourage it. And if you're let down when you get there and you don't find what you're looking for, at least you can enjoy the past and the different types of items in the museum and enjoy the thrill of the chase in that way.
Definitely. Yes?
5 minutes.
Okay. Joel, your thoughts. Would you put anything into spending some time in museums in your search area?
Don't let knowing a little bit be a substitute for learning more.
Okay.
But I think you will be probably better off throwing a little pinion on the fire, brewing some coffee, and making some space to think.
Okay.
And ruminating on the things you already know and thinking about them differently.
So you certainly wouldn't put it at the top of your list. And I know,
a museum? Oh God. No.
Yeah. Toby's experience when he went up and tried to look for things, he came away saying, it was interesting and it was fun to talk to a few people. And he ended up doing his own interpretation for a number of people who were standing by. But in the end, he said it just didn't feel that Fenny.
I've seen the movie Night at the Museum. And trust me, to say that nothing could go wrong is just flat out wrong.
Right.
Well, and you think about it. Has Forrest ever mentioned a museum?
Cody, he talks about he had the
Cody Museum.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
So, it couldn't hurt. And if anything,
about the one in Denver.
The Denver one.
He talks about museums a lot.
Right. But I think, Sean, your point is correct in that what he doesn't say is, hey, get out there and look for look for clues there, or you might learn something there that's going to help you. And so that's a good point. Well taken. So the final thing I wanted to touch on really quick, we're kind of at the end of the show here, but I just wanted to talk about, maybe giving a little bit of headspace to the idea of prepping your finances and considering your potential boots on the ground travel. In other words, you don't want to throw it together at the last minute and pull from house money to make these things happen. And, Sean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it depends on where your search location is. Mine, $60 in gas gets me to my search area.
Mm-hmm.
From where I live in eastern New Mexico, I can drive
up there.
No
one likes a bragger.
And so weigh and measure. Like I said, Joel, it depends on where your search area is. If you can get there in a half a day and use gas money and take a sack lunch, and you're not going deep into the woods, and you can go out and hike a short distance and look around, it's $100 or so to do that if you're close to your search area. Now, if you're not, you have to very thoroughly prepare both expenses for equipment and travel on getting there. A lot of people take their vacations to do this, but there you go. And if nothing else, and you don't find the chest, and you do utilize your vacation, try to spend some time doing something other than, in my opinion, looking for the chest, to do some fishing, some sightseeing, perhaps stop by a museum in that area or something like that, and enjoy the thrill of the chase, opposed to just walking away exhausted from your efforts with, like all of us have at some time.
Yep.
And this is just coming from my own personal experience. Enjoy the surroundings. Is there a landmark nearby? Go be able to take that in, so that you don't come away with, nothing but, beat down by the woods because you didn't find the chest.
Yep.
Other than that. So in my opinion, prepare for it. If it's going to be your vacation, utilize it in a way that you're going to have memories, and more than just empty-handed coming back and looking forward to next year. So I would encourage everyone out there, if you haven't gone, maybe this is a time to start preparing to go boots on the ground for the first time in the spring.
Make sure your budget includes enough on the back end for any therapy or professionals.
Professionals upon return.
Rodney, any thoughts on putting some mind space into financial prepping and just trip planning kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think I'm going to add on to what Joel said. On the last topic of you not needing a whole bunch of stuff. I want to clarify that what he's saying is true. You probably shouldn't need a bunch of stuff to go out to the treasure location. Now you have to consider what we're talking about now. Where are you at? Where do you think the treasure's at? How do you plan on getting there? And then, packing accordingly and financing for that type of stuff. So if I were to fly to my search area and then I get there and I decide I want to get a rental car, and then instead of camping, I'm going to stay in a hotel, and I'm going to, instead of bringing food with me or buying groceries, I'm going to eat 3 times a day at whatever restaurant.
Yeah.
That is a very quick way to go broke, extremely quick. I spent, like I said, 10 days. I brought all my food. If you know somebody in the Army and you can bear with eating some MREs, some ready to eat, that's all I brought with me, and I bought a couple gallons of water, and all that stuff stayed in my car, and then when I hiked out to my spot, I'd bring my Camelback or whatever, but I was able to set up camp wherever. And, when I say $700, that's probably over exaggerating by a lot. So if you plan accordingly, I highly doubt that people don't have the right stuff at their house that they could use if they get creative and figure out a way to use it. Right. Instead of buying some fancy water purification, okay, bring a pot and boil water, bring bring a cheap water bottle or something. If you don't want to buy some canteen or some Camelback or whatever, use an old backpack, use an old sleeping bag. Forrest's intent was for a redneck to throw a bedroll in the truck and go out and get it. So
that's right.
If a redneck can do it, and not break the bank, then you shouldn't either. So,
yeah, well said. Joel, did you want to throw something in on that?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, in case it had come across like I was saying, you don't need to be prepared. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I want to make sure.
Yeah.
And I know. Yeah. I just want to clarify, and this is for the search community, and especially for people that are new. You have to be prepared. And the important part of that is, one of the best ways to be prepared is to not put yourself in situations or places where you're going to need ridiculous things in order to stay alive. That's my definition of a dangerous place, right?
Yeah.
A redneck with a bedroll, he's not going to need a grappling hook or ropes or
a backhoe.
Thank you. Yes.
Or
so there are things you should not need. There are always things that are going to make it easier if you find yourself in a situation, right? So the idea is you're driving someplace and you get stuck on the side of the road. Do you have what you need in that situation to stay warm and safe? And those are important things, right? And that list of what you need goes up as you go out into the wilderness. But I'll remind you, Forrest got his training out in real life. He also said he should have died 3 times, but he got super lucky. Right. Yeah. So that's just the nature of life. And so But again, to reiterate, you should be prepared, but you need to be careful of where you're thinking about going.
Got it. Kristie,
I
Sean.
had one thing real quick to add to mine. I would encourage searchers that if you do have a checklist of items, to apply it to your budget in a way that maybe every couple of weeks over this winter time, you buy 1 or 2 items as the months go by, so that you're not trying to purchase everything in the spring all at once. You kind of spread it out and stagger it. One things I do is I have some Rubbermaid containers with different items staged in my garage, ready to go. So maybe just slowly start filling those with items over the winter, so that when spring or summer comes, you're ready to go. You're ready to load it all up. You're not scrambling last minute. You've really thoroughly combed through the items that you need, and you're ready.
I like it. Kristie, thoughts on just kind of putting some time and thought into financially preparing and doing some trip planning with your wintertime?
Yeah, so I'll do my first topic or my first thought on first-time searchers. AGK has a great video on, you're going to look at the poem, look at the book, you're going to have it solved within 2 hours, and you're going to want to run boots on the ground as fast as you can. Stop. No, it's not safe right now. So take a little time and understand, especially Google your spot. See how many searchers have been there. For someone that had Ojo Caliente for their first spot, it's like there's 100,000 people. I'm surprised I didn't meet more searchers there. So I will say, and the one thing that I will say that most people don't realize as a flatlander, altitude sickness can hit you harder than you ever realized. So really take that into account. The other thing is, and we talked about boots on the ground items, things that I will not go without now, walkie-talkie. I didn't realize how much you can just venture out from your search partner and you can be behind a tree and get, so the walkie-talkies ground you right back to them, which is awesome. Also a dry pack. I did do a little swimming. I mean, it's Ojo Caliente. You had to swim there. And so a towel and a dry pack if you want to try to purge over places. But the other thing is, and people already said this, you're going to go and you're going to crash. And build in social time. My last boots on the ground, I spent time with Toby and Shelly. I went shooting with Cynthia and her wife, and we did so many, and we got boots on the ground, which was amazing. But make it an amazing experience. So you realize after you totally go, it's not here. You might be 2 days in, and you still have 5 days to go. So build in some time to do some fun things, and see some people. If you're in one of the kind of famous areas like Yellowstone or Santa Fe, there's a lot of searchers out there and they are so fun to meet up with. So I say that's the one thing I didn't do at the beginning was it was all boots on the ground time, and I crashed and then I came back and I was looking at maps and analysis and then evenings and then went back up. No, build in like 3 days of fun time, because fun time is totally worth it. So that was the thing that I do now that I didn't do at the beginning that I would say. And of course the finances piece, yes. Don't go out unless you're able to, and whatever that means to you. For me, this next season, I usually hotel. I'm actually buying a fifth wheel, and it'll be a used one, and I want to take my kids, but I'm building it in of what exactly that'll look like, and I'm researching all of it, and a lot of you have helped me. I've put some things up on Thor and asked questions, but so my strategy is changing, but it's within my means. And again, I'm trying to make special experiences. I'm taking my kids for the first time next year. So
I like it. And you know what? That's exactly what Forrest was talking about. Get them away from the electronics and the Xboxes and let them see some of the beauty that we all know sits out there in those forests and those parks and stuff. Well, I appreciate it, guys. We're running a little tight on time. Toby, is there anything else from the chat room or anything you want to acknowledge?
No, you're good. You can go ahead with your outros.
Okay, so I want to give everybody an opportunity to just say your goodbyes, and if you want to drop any information on your particular sites, please take this time to do so. So, Kristie, let's go right back to you.
Hint of Riches for forum discussion, and the Raven's Nest. I don't see Mike, but Mike's going to be busy next Monday night because we are coming back next week and have some good content that'll mirror kind of what we did tonight, which was super fun. Thanks, Jason and Toby.
Sure. Rodney, what do you got?
All right. My YouTube channel is Rodney Greenway, just like it says in my little name box right there. And most of the videos are titled Fenn Treasure Thoughts. Try to keep it creative and use some critical thinking. And then if you ever want to email me, you can reach out to me at fenntreasurethoughts@gmail.com. And I always try to reply. So
Good deal. Good deal. Sean?
Figuring Out Forest on YouTube, Facebook, and at Gmail. You can find me there. I'll be monitoring that over the winter, the different comments and things on the Facebook page. It gets interesting sometimes. A lot of people share their ideas and their thoughts and ask questions. It's really interesting to be able to respond to those things and see what other searchers are thinking. Some people ask basic questions that can be answered very easily by a lot of people who have been in the search for a while. So if you're not on one of those, there's a number of them. Joel has a Facebook group. They're really, really helpful.
Good deal. And Joel?
Yeah, like Sean was saying, on the internet, there is a social networking site called Facebook that people can sign up with accounts for and interact socially. On there, I have a site called The Thrill of the Chase, a Forest Fenn community, and it is focused on positive interactions in the Forest Fenn community. We have a lot of fun. We're approaching 1,000 members. When we get to 1,000, we're going to vote on a question to send to Forrest, and
Nice.
hopefully he'll answer it for us because there will be 1,000 of us.
Good deal.
Forrest is a good guy. He doesn't need to do that, but we're going to send it to him anyways. Also,
Do it.
yeah, don't forget to use the winter to grow out your search beard so that you can get out and stay warmer. Very important.
For survival reasons.
This is No Shave November, so I'm 7 days in. So it's going pretty
Looking
well.
good. Looking good. I think it'll fit well with the accordion. So, you know, it's right up your alley.
Oh, go cross some river.
Well, I want to thank all my panelists. They're all uniquely qualified to be here. I love the differing points of view and what they have to share about it. They really bring something to the plate. I appreciate them giving this time to do this. I want to thank Toby for handling the technical direction tonight and handling the chat room. I apologize for those. Obviously, I'm not as involved in the chat as I normally would be, but it really takes a lot of headspace to stay up with the conversation and anything. I hope you got something out of tonight's message. I want you to stay safe, really enjoy the winter and use it to recharge on this amazing gift that Forrest has given us to have this thrill of the chase. I know that some folks have kind of asked about, well, you know, what's going to go on and is this a regular deal? I do want to take a moment to speak to that and just say that, you know, Toby and I and AGK, you know, we're committed to the community. We love the community. We love the idea of being able to have this information out there as a reference point for everyone. So, you know, we're going to do what we can to keep some kind of regular and new programming up on the channel. It's not going to be at the same scale it was at. Toby has made his decision to put, you know, his resources into new directions, and I respect him for that. You know, he's making a good decision for himself and for what he wants to be able to do for his time, and he's certainly earned the ability to make that choice. So, but for those that are wondering, yes, we're going to be having new content. We're going to continue to get out there and hopefully have intelligent things to say and things that can help you jog your thoughts and your ideas and get you closer to that treasure. So stay safe out there, and thanks for checking in with AGK.
All right, let me just close up for you, Jace. First of all, I want to thank our panelists for doing such a great job in supporting the conversation tonight. I want to thank our viewers for joining us tonight. We missed you guys. We like having you in the chat room, and we love the conversation that goes on. We know that you have a lot of choices on how to spend your time in terms of the Fenn search, and we really appreciate you spending your time with us. Remember that on Friday night at 7 p.m., I will host a Friday first Fenn Fandango event starting at 7 p.m. We'll go from 7 to 9, answering questions, taking phone calls, pretty much just like we did before, and talking about all things Fenn. I can do that without necessarily going out and looking for the treasure, and I hope you'll accept that as part of what I can contribute to the community. And then finally, I'd like to congratulate my son, Jason, for doing a tremendous job. I was very confident, of course, that he could moderate a panel session, but he exceeded my expectations as usual, and did a great job tonight. And we look forward to seeing him in other panels, and eventually taking the time to produce his own content to add to the archive of information that we've created at AGK. So congratulations, Jason. That was very well done. All right. So for the panel, for my son Jason, for A Gypsy's Kiss, thank you for joining us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.